Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, May 11th meeting of the Comox Valley Sewage Commission. I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation. And I'd like to welcome everyone here, including our staff members and our directors. Just like to acknowledge that we have two alternate directors here today, or commissioners rather, from CFP Comox. We have Captain Emily Aumont, who's standing in for Major Stevens. And from Comox, we have alternate Director Bissinger standing in for Director Minions. So with that, I don't believe we have any delegations. So we'll start with the Sewage Commission Management Report for receipt. And I'll take a receipt motion, please.
Move receipt.
Moved. Second.
Moved by Cole Hamilton, seconded by Bissinger. Is there any discussion?
Nope.
Director Bissinger?
Sorry, I'm trying to find the hand button on this phone. There's just some mention about discussing, oh shit, maybe I'm at the wrong meeting here, but just discussing with the town of Comox for the community consultation portion. So I was just wondering if the CVRD has a date planned to attend a council meeting just to get us updated as to the scheduling and whatnot.
Thanks, Mr. Dyson.
Thank you very much, Chair and Commissioners, and for the question. On a staff level, meetings are ongoing with respect to conveyance, and we just received notice from the town today that they can receive us as a delegation. Chris LaRose and I will be there May the 19th to provide an update for your council.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And I should have acknowledged that Director Arbor is also here representing Area A as an unvoting delegate. And based on that, we'll vote on the management report. Is there anyone opposed to receipt? Seeing and hearing none, that is carried. And we move on to the Comox Valley Sewage Management Advisory Committee minutes, and we'll take a receipt motion on those, please.
Move receipt.
Second.
Moved by Morin and second, was that Director Bissinger?
Yep.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions? All right, we'll vote on that. Is anyone opposed to receipt of those minutes? Hearing none, that is approved. And we now have item number 2, the Sewage Commission Governance Final Report. And again, this is for receipt. A receipt motion, please.
Move receipt. Second.
Moved by Bissinger, seconded Morin, I believe. And I think we'll hear from staff on this one, Mr. Dyson.
Thank you very much, Chair and Commissioners. And Jake Martins is here, General Manager of Corporate Services. He'll provide a brief presentation of this and answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Russell, and through the chair. Thanks for your time, Commissioners, today. I'm pleased to provide a quick summary of the governance review that's been undertaken. As the Commissioners will recall, this review was initiated back in 2020 following a decision by the Commission to accept wastewater from Electoral Area A and Comox First Nation lands, and through the adoption of bylaw number 617, which established criteria, principles, and process for the expansion of the service. In light of the need to consider how the expansion would be accommodated within the existing Commission governance structure, a review was directed and facilitated by contractors Alan Nielsen and Sherry Hurst. Over the course of several months, 2 workshops were held with the participation of the Director for Electoral Area A, as well as a representative of the Comox First Nation at the first workshop, to explore 3 primary concepts, and those being the delegation of decisions respecting the administration and operation of the service, the composition of the Commission, and decision-making and how those decisions are made at the board. So what I've provided here is just a brief summary of the recommended model. And as you will note, the model generally reflects the continuation of the current Commission structure with some minor updates, which are worth noting. I'll just quickly go through this here. So with respect to delegation, the Commission expressed the desire to continue to be delegated to the fullest extent of authority from the board. And so as I mentioned before, that's respecting all decisions on the administration and operation of the service, bylaw adoption and other legislative matters would still be held by the board, as those are not authorized to be delegated to any body. With regard to composition, the commissioners expressed a desire for those that pay for the service should all be entitled to representation and decision-making for those that contribute to the service, either through fees or taxes or otherwise. And that extends to the Department of National Defense, the electoral area A, should a local service area be created, and KFN as well, should that be their desire. The commission also, on that note of KFN, expressed a desire to provide an opportunity for KFN and the Department of National Defense to consider their participation and their representation on the body and provide some flexibility as far as representation, whether that be by an elected official or another individual representing them. The other note was that the commission expressed a desire, and the consultants included a trigger in which a recommendation to include a trigger for a review of the commission in the future. And so it was identified through this process that that could be the suggestion around when annual dry weather flows from one of the participants reaches 50% of that of Comox. And so that's a recommendation, and certainly that's something that can be considered when that comes forward, either through a bylaw process or otherwise. But that was the notion, is to at least include some sort of trigger so that reconsideration can be provided as the service evolves. Finally, with respect to decision-making, the commission identified the desire to maintain a structure where no one player has full decision-making control. And so this encourages essentially cooperation and collaboration between the parties in order to render a decision. And again, wanting to consider how to involve, respect, and support KFN as a meaningful decision maker with respect to the service. So in this regard, the report does speak to the need for further dialogue between the commission and KFN to explore interests and try and identify approaches that work for both parties. With regard to implementation, there are two bylaws that have primary consideration in regards to this, and that's bylaws number 650, which is the commission bylaw, which establishes the commission, and bylaw 2541, which is the service establishment bylaw. If I could, kind of draw a parallel to the water committee, the water committee does not have a committee bylaw. All of the decision making and other elements are completed through the service establishment bylaw in that case. So in this situation, it's slightly different, in which we have both a service establishment bylaw and a commission bylaw. So the main difference between those two is, of course, that the service establishment bylaw has far more stringent amendment requirements that are outlined in the Local Government Act. So changes to the commission composition and otherwise, in some respects, can be a bit more straightforward if just making an amendment to bylaw number 650. So the report does talk about the triggers for such bylaw amendments, which could be brought forward, and that could be on agreement of KFN's participation on the commission, or Area A is ready to connect to the treatment system. And so either one of those could be the trigger in which we brought forward. However, it doesn't also prevent decisions to amend those bylaws to come forward now with caveats around when they would become effective or when such changes would fall into place. So with that, Mr. Chair, be pleased to answer any questions. Thanks.
Thanks very much. And we'll open it up for questions or discussion, comments. And I see Director Cole Hamilton.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sharon, and thanks for this this report, Jake. I was wondering what the sort of the contemplated consultation processes with KFN going forward. I can see there are a number of points that we need greater clarity on before we can land on a final decision.
Yeah, so through the chair, right now the CBRD meets monthly with KFN and their leadership, and I think that format has proven quite effective in order to discuss various matters that are ongoing between the parties. So certainly that's I think our obvious place to start with this and to see where they might want to see the conversation go or how it might be structured.
Further questions or comment? And perhaps while we're waiting, I'll just point out that on the paragraph that starts at the bottom of page 5 and moves to page 6 in the report from the consulting firm. There's actually the same sentence is written twice. They might want to amend that just for the record.
Thank you.
And I see Director Arbor has a question.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I really want to thank staff and the consultant for what I think is a really good job. And I definitely want to thank the commission for allowing me to participate in the governance study as the rep of Area A. I'm not one to decide on these items right now, but I can say that to me, it seems like a really good roadmap that anticipates connecting Royston, Union Bay, and Comox First Nation lands in the future. Perhaps the only question I would raise is for clarity for the commission. So you also understand probably some of the hurdles that we've discussed before Area A can contemplate this. Is there would have to be the service establishment bylaw probably backed by either a liquid waste management plan or some type of electoral assent, such as referendum or AAP process once we feel ready. And I'd like to also thank the commission for their support in the major grant application that sits before the province and the federal government right now in order to enable Area A and Comox First Nation to join the system. So again, huge kudos to the commission for allowing this to happen. And I look forward to hopefully rejoining your table in the future.
Thank you, Director Arbor, and you've, through your comments, acknowledged that there are a lot of moving parts in this process, but I think that we're all looking forward to this major initiative and the benefits that it will bring both to our community and to the environment. I'm going to ask a question of staff. I noted in the report that there didn't seem to be any mention of alternate decision-making processes that might be employed elsewhere. Does that imply that there aren't any such processes with these types of bodies, or simply that we didn't look for that?
Mr. Chair, certainly there is the ability to set custom voting and decision-making models. As you can appreciate, certainly in local government, we typically fall back on what's set aside in the act around weighted votes and whatnot. But that doesn't mean that other approaches can't be explored. Through the workshops, there wasn't, my recollection, a great deal of interest in really trying to explore all those opportunities. It was more based around, I think, probably the balance of decision-making and on the commission itself, and just trying to find that balance amongst all the various participants.
Thanks. There was reference in the report to, of course, further dialogue, and I'm just wondering, there was also reference to the possibility that this might become a bit of a template or a model for other decision-making processes within regional government. And it occurs to me that given that there are other Indigenous nations that are perhaps going through similar processes elsewhere, that we might be wise to consider what other possibilities are out there. I appreciate that we're constrained by legislation and various procedures, but just a thought that it may be worth exploring what possibilities are out there as we perhaps strike new territory here.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add that recently a chair and CAO forum occurred with all the chairs and CAOs of regional districts across the province. A presentation by the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Josie Osborne, was made in which she said a commitment of the provincial government to explore First Nations participation on regional districts as a priority of potential legislative change. So I see us probably receiving something from the province in the next while that will explore this further across the board, not just in our own midst.
Thanks very much. Any further comments or questions in relation to the governance final report? All right, is there anyone opposed to receipt of this report? And hearing and seeing none, the report is approved, received as presented. And I believe that is the extent of our agenda today. Any media questions? No? No in camera? All right, we'll take a motion for adjournment.
Move adjournment.
Moved. Second.
Thank you, Director
I
Moran.
second that.
And seconded by
Captain
that
Omont.
Captain Omont. Wonderful. I was hoping we would get your name in the record here.
I just want one.
There you go. You can tell all your family and friends that you were a key member of the Sewage Commission this day. All right.
Go.
Thanks very much, everyone. Appreciate the participation. Thanks to staff. The meeting